Hey everyone, thanks for coming out and checking out my first YouTube video. Today I'm going to be talking about the top 5 criticisms of CrossFit that I, both as someone who wanted to do CrossFit, who kind of got a bit scared of doing it based upon what I heard, and eventually the person I am now who coaches CrossFit. This is what I've really found out and my interpretation of the top 5 complaints about CrossFit. Now, before I get started, I just want to clarify, I absolutely love my CrossFit gym. I love most of the gyms that I've been to as well. I've had a good experience there and I've had good coaches. However, I think we need to consider the complaints that people give to CrossFit. Just as we give constructive criticism to better movements in CrossFit, I think we can use their criticism to make both our gym environment and the culture of CrossFit a better place. First up on our list at number 5 is promising exercise as a lifestyle cure-all. Basically, when people come in, whether they want to lose weight, get in shape, become the best person that they can be, the number one thing that we focus on is the workout. And I think CrossFit has been doing a good job of developing into this realm. However, probably the number one thing in order to get healthy is their nutrition. Coming off that with good nutrition, eating healthy. After that, working out and becoming healthier is certainly important. However, oftentimes it takes precedence over larger issues, such as maybe not sleeping enough, focusing on good mental health. Sometimes it even causes neglect in those areas. People work out so that they can go and binge eat. People work out in place of potentially getting good sleep and neglecting other areas in their life. So this is something just to keep in mind as you're developing as an athlete and as a person. Coming in 4th place on our list today is poor form. And in parentheses here, I have pride. It comes in 2 different variations here. It comes with the athlete's pride, whether it is they don't want to take a minute to slow down and improve on form and lower the weight. But in regards to complaints about CrossFit, it really comes into that coach's pride. Sometimes if you're dealing with an athlete that refuses to listen to you, sometimes you think, well, I've done my piece, I've said my bit, and if they don't improve here, then they're just not going to get better. Then you risk both injury and you risk them not coming back. They have to be able to take constructive criticism, and as a coach, you have to be able to give that to them. If they don't and they're not willing, then you have to think, they're probably not going to succeed at CrossFit, being that there's so many failures in the CrossFit route. So that's something to not prioritize the athlete's safety and ability. That's something that some gyms have a hard time doing. So being able to do that and look at them less as a client and more as an athlete and a fellow friend in the gym. So for our top 3 spots on the list today, they all relate. Number 3 causes number 2, which causes number 1. All of these are complaints, and number 1 is which it culminates in is probably the biggest complaint that people encounter and talk about in regards to CrossFit. So in front of that, number 3 is poor programming. Oftentimes the programming that we create is too similar. It can blow athletes out. It can create muscle soreness, muscle fatigue. And then on the flip side of that, some movements are never seen. They're seen maybe once every 2 months. I think a fix to this that a lot of gyms need to incorporate is focus on their cycles in CrossFit, focus on getting better at a specific movement while not overloading that. And in addition, when you do have those movements that you don't see very often, don't overload the weight, don't overload the reps. Maybe have another workout before that early in the week, introducing your members to that workout again. Oftentimes we see heavy thrusters out of nowhere. Maybe we don't do thrusters very often. Or maybe in the same week we have strict press, handstand push-ups, dumbbell clean and jerk, have a bunch of overhead movement and don't really give yourself time to recuperate after all that intense shoulder work. Number 2 on our list is something that some of us CrossFitters might get a little bit defensive about, but hear me out on this. Number 2 is that being sore is a culture in CrossFit. It's something to brag about. Oh man, I was so sore after that heavy set of deadlifts. My legs have been dead after those squats this entire week. So being sore sometimes is absolutely okay, and it's just caused by a large amount of reps. However, talking previously from that poor programming, if it's something that causes you to not come into the gym, to lose time in the gym spent on other movements, that's something that you really have to see. Is that really a net gain there at that point? To lose time in the gym because you blew yourself out the day before, maybe you don't even come in for a couple days. At that point, it's absolutely not worth it. Another thing in this is that a lot of gyms don't have appropriate warm-up, warm-down, or mobility. Oftentimes gyms do a pretty good job at warming up. They get their members' blood flowing, they get people's heart rate up before a good Metcon, metabolic conditioning workout. However, once the workout's done, a lot of members just head right out the door. They don't have that warm down. They don't flush out their lactic acid. They don't spend time working on their mobility to get better at certain movements. You know, as much as we as coaches like to think that we can fix any squat, that we can fix any deadlift, there does come a point where you need to work on your forward front rack position, or you're not going to be able to get your hands there. You need to work on your shoulder girdle flexibility. You need to work on your hip flexors, or some of these movements just will never come to you. You have to work on flexibility. So being able to promote that in your hour-long class is something that I think we as CrossFit sometimes miss the mark on. Last up on our list at number 1 of complaints about CrossFit is the rate of injury. People complain all the time saying that CrossFit's not safe, you get injured all the time. And while I don't think this is as much of a problem as people say it is, I don't think it occurs any more than in other sports, whether it be in high school sports, college level sports. I don't think it's as often. However, it is something to consider. I think that a lot of times CrossFit being defined as constantly varied functional movements executed as a high intensity, I think the constantly varied is something that can cause injury when members don't have patience with movements, when they don't take the time to build up weight, when they don't take the time to learn the movements. And as the coaches at gyms, a lot of times you want to encourage your members to have constant gains, encourage them to come back. And spending an hour learning a movement, maybe not getting the best workout, is something that requires a lot of patience, requires a lot of focus to work on. In addition to that, that high intensity that members want to bring to have a good workout is something that should not be brought in until they have a solid foundation on the movement. So but having that high intensity before having the proper form down, it really leads to that risk of injury there. And I think that's something that we need to encourage our members to have more patience. So that wraps up my list, number 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. If you disagree with any of these or you have a comment, go ahead and leave it in the comments below. Thank you all so very much for watching my first ever YouTube video that I've put out. If you enjoyed the content, please go ahead and leave a like in the bottom right-hand corner below. And if you want to be notified every time I put out a video, please hit the subscribe button below. I'm going to be trying to put out a new video every week, focusing on fitness, focusing on CrossFit, maybe focusing on my personal fitness journey. So if any of that interests you, please like, subscribe, and tune in next week. Thank you very much. Bye.